After the wedding, I discovered that everything from the bed to the wedding gold was bought with borrowed money. After getting married, I discovered a truth that completely shocked me. The wedding I once believed was the happy beginning of my life was actually organized with borrowed money, not just one loan. Almost everything in that wedding was paid for with money someone had borrowed. And the most frightening part was, before the wedding, I had absolutely no idea. About a month after the wedding, I started cleaning and rearranging the bedroom that my husband and I shared. It was a room I once loved very much. The light wooden wedding bed, the brand new wardrobe, and the small vanity table placed beside the window. When I first moved in, I thought everything in that room symbolized the start of a new life, a stable life, a peaceful marriage. But one evening, while we were talking about money, I casually asked my husband, "How much did this whole bedroom set cost?" He answered calmly, "About 30 million. I nodded. Then I asked another question. "Did you pay it all at once or in installments?" He said something that made me pause. "I borrowed some money from a colleague." I was a little surprised, but at that moment, I still thought it was nothing serious. In life, borrowing a little money from friends sometimes isn't a big deal. But then I asked again, "What about the refrigerator and the washing machine?" He replied, "Also borrowed." At that moment, something started to feel wrong. So I continued asking, "What about the money for the wedding itself?" He stayed silent for a few seconds. Then he said softly, "I borrowed some for that too." A strange feeling slowly formed inside me, but I still tried to stay calm. So I asked one more question. "What about the wedding gold?" He looked at me and said a sentence that I will probably never forget. "I borrowed money to buy that too." At that moment, I was completely stunned. I had never imagined that my wedding had been arranged like that. Before we got married, he had only told me one thing. He said he owed around 300 million Vietnamese dongs because he had borrowed money to build a house for his parents in the countryside. I still remember exactly how I felt when I heard that number. I wasn't afraid. I didn't object. In fact, I even thought he was a very responsible man. I believed that a man who was willing to borrow money to build a house for his parents must be someone who cared deeply about his family. So I told him, "It's okay. We can work hard together and pay it off in a few years." I truly believed that. I thought 300 million wasn't too frightening for two young people with stable jobs. But after the wedding, I slowly realized something I had never considered before. That debt was not the whole story. I began paying more attention to the payments my husband had to make every month. One evening, while he was calculating his expenses, I accidentally saw a list of people he owed money to. There were colleagues, friends, even consumer finance loans. I asked him quietly, "You borrowed this much?" He simply said, "I borrowed it to make the wedding proper and respectable." I said, "The wedding gifts must have been quite a lot, right? We can use that money to pay off some of the debt." Before my husband could answer, my mother-in-law said, "We already kept that money." I was surprised. I asked, "What for?" She replied naturally, "To pay off part of the bank loan for the house in the countryside." I sat there quietly, not because I regretted the money, but because I began to realize something. Everything in my marriage seemed to revolve around a single word: debt. After the wedding, our life entered a tiring cycle. Work, receive salary, pay debts, then wait for the next month. No savings, no financial buffer, no real plans for the future. Some days, I looked at my bank account and felt a deep sense of emptiness. I believed that if we could endure a few difficult years, everything would eventually be fine. I believed that every marriage must go through a difficult beginning. I believed that if two people worked hard together, they could overcome anything. But then one day, I accidentally discovered something that shook my entire trust. Because it turned out, the 300 million Vietnamese dongs debt I knew about before the wedding was not the total amount my husband owed. One evening, my husband forgot his phone on the table. I accidentally saw a debt reminder message from a finance company. That was the moment I realized something shocking. Besides the official 300 million Vietnamese dongs debt, my husband had also taken out 2 other credit loans that I had never known about. And from that moment, I began to understand that my marriage might be carrying a burden far heavier than I had ever imagined.